Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I got to speak to the phenomenal voice actor, Andrew Lander. We talked about how he started out in the voiceover industry, what you should do if you are new to the industry, how he came up with his business name, voiceover on TikTok, and he gave some great advice and tips you don't want to miss. So sit back and enjoy this episode of Behind the Audition podcast. And my next guest, I am super excited. We had planned this meeting a long time ago. And, we are not just, voice actors. We have family we got to take care of. And this gentleman is so awesome. Like I said, most of the people that I meet on this, on the show are social media. Some I'll talk on Zoom, some a phone call, and actually a lot on LinkedIn. This gentleman, you've heard his voice on many, many, many commercials. He has clients such as Coca-Cola, Fanta, SiriusXM. He's on Pandora. Let's face it, he does all the commercials. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Andrew Lander. How you doing?
Woo-hoo! Curt, thank you so much. And you are a saint because, we planned this out I think earlier in the month, and so many things popped up, like kids, runny noses. Thank God no COVID, but man, they were just getting sick from here to there, and with summer break and all this other stuff. And I was in Canada recently, and I was like, okay, Curt, I promise you, I'm going to be back on Monday. I promise you. And we're here.
But what did I say? Family first. And that's one good thing about this industry, as we both get to do this. Put family first, and you put the work-life balance, because you know what? At the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we got to take care of what's most important. I want to talk about your booth first of all. Usually I go into the cliche, how do we get this? You have a very, very cool booth. And one thing I'm going to give you a shout out for is there's a lot of voice actors nowadays who think you need to spend $5,000 for a whisper room, or, that you need to drop $4 million on pads for your room. What kind of booth do you have, and what got you on in that certain booth?
Yeah. So this booth is a vocal booth to go booth. And it has one, two, three, four blankets, and they're being held up by a lot of people use PVC for their booth. And if the listeners can't see it, but if you imagine with me, listeners, it's made of aluminum. And what I did was I went online on Amazon, and I got a hydroponic tent, and the hydroponic tent has the coverings, but it also has this skeleton aluminum frame, or steel frame, not aluminum. And I just did away with all the extra stuff, and all of the, I guess the people who are tracking me online who think that I'm growing weed out of here, which I'm not. I'm not doing that. NSA.
That is awesome.
And I just use the frame. And what I like about it is that I can spread my arms out the entire distance. And I'm 5'7". So, I mean, this thing is maybe 6'2". So for me, this is like my own personal little TARDIS, and it's a lot of space for me. So so it's vocal booth to go. It's being held up by clamps that I also got up on Amazon. And then I have lights, which are these clip-on lights. They're magnetic, which is great because the frame is steel. Yeah. And they're connected with a USB-C cable, and it's running out to my it's like my floor extension cord. And
that's
these
great.
Always stay on. So and in total, I don't know how much I spent, but it was maybe under 300.
See, that's amazing. And that's what a lot of, I like to, when I have people reach out to me, hey, I got this kind of booth, or I'm looking to get this kind of booth. And I've talked to former guests. It's just don't drop $1 million until you know this is what you want to do. Right. You know what I mean? And then when you invest in this, what did you do first when you got into this industry? Like, what's the biggest purchase you made first? Or was it coaching, or was it, getting in, a great computer, or was it a microphone you really want to get? Or is it just like want to know if this was what you want to do first?
Wow. The first big purchase, it was definitely coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So even before this,
Mm-hmm.
I would listen to podcasts, and I would be like, okay, I know that there are like shotgun mics, which I have, right here. Like I have a 416 now. But before, I used my son's play school driver. Like like for golf, like it's
Yeah.
blue and it's made of plastic, but it juts out like a shotgun mic.
Oh
And
my
so I
gosh.
put a whole bunch of his like stuffies, Paw Patrol stuff around it so it would stay upright. And I'd
Yeah.
be in my closet and I would act like I'm talking into it because, I don't come from a radio background. So like
Mm-hmm.
the mic to me, like, it's kind of weird. Like it's all up in my face. And
Yeah.
so I had to get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did after, listening to podcasts and then being involved in some Facebook communities, I dropped four figures for coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first and biggest investment in year zero.
Wow. And you felt good about it, right? So you knew it was a
Oh,
good
yeah.
investment. And I think 99% of us voice actors who get coached, you realize after you're done, you maybe have not been ready. Two, you're not ready for this industry. And three, just, look, I gave it a try, and I've learned from this coach. And, and a couple of the last guests I've had on there, they said, if you have a question about something, get a coach to show you that answer, because that's what everybody learns. So,
Yep.
When did you get into this industry? And, take us back in time. You finally thought, you know what, this is what I want to do. What did you first do?
Okay, so we're taking it all the way back to when I was a little
Cue the
boy.
DeLorean.
The trauma. It was a traumatic experience. A mic hit me in the face. No. And I said, I will teach you a lesson one day.
Yeah.
No. I think it really hit me in 2019. So I was going to be a new father again for my third child.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in 2019. And I got that sort of existential dread that I'm sure you got. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
do I have enough for diapers? Do I have
Mm-hmm.
enough? Do we have enough for milk, honey?
Mm-hmm.
Are we okay? And we were fine, but I'm like, maybe I could do a little bit more. And now this is not what a lot of people might say when they talk about how they got into it, because my focus was less on the craft and it was more on the money.
Okay. Good
Just-
honesty. I appreciate the honesty.
just to be frank.
Mhm.
And so when I looked online, for some side gigs, and got on a website about like the top 60 things you could do, walk dogs or take out trash. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that stuff. I have time to pour hours and hours of time into voiceover.
Right.
And so I found this article about a Black woman who was doing voiceover from an RV out of, like Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm like, she's not in New York. She's not in LA. She's
Mhm.
just doing it, like e-learning. And what's that? And, commercials. Whoa, you could do commercials like that. And so at that point in time, I was in Montgomery, Alabama. And so I'm like, well, if you can do it from anywhere, then I can do it from Montgomery, Alabama for sure.
Right.
So, when I saw that, it didn't just bring about thoughts of, okay, this could be, a bit of extra income. It also kind of, and being serious, it brought me back to some of the things that I had done, in my my 30 plus years of life, which is before moving to Montgomery, because I moved for the auto industry. I was a director of marketing at a real estate organization in Northern Virginia, and doing that, and then doing other marketing roles prior to that and communication roles. It brought about this, this kind of innate skill set that I had, which was, just getting in front of people and explaining to them how, X, Y, and Z think, and help them be a better, real estate agent, or, whatever. Explaining the company's tutorials and explaining the company's mission statement, like that kind of stuff I had done before.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm blanking on the person who was in that article, but that's why it appealed to me, because I'm like, oh, so corporate narration. Oh, I've kind of done that before. Explainers.
Right.
Oh, I've kind of done that before. So, I approached it from a very practical dollars and cents perspective, but then at the same time, I'm like, I'm also the crazy person, like I know you are, who sits in their car and they're like, I could say that a lot better. I can say that better than that guy did. And you repeat it, right?
Right.
The same commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have that little bug, if you're really passionate about it. And so that's kind of the long and short of it.
No, and I think we do that as voice actors, and I critique people, and I probably shouldn't, because you should never judge. But at the end of the day, you kind of, and you've done this long enough now, when you hear somebody read something,
mm-hmm.
They read it wrong, or they read it like over. I'm trying to think here. They overdid it. You know what I mean? They're not really acting. They're just overacting. You know what I mean? They're kind of just pushing it too far. And I appreciate, you being honest like that, because we all do that. We sit in the car, and you'll hear somebody, coming Thursday, blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh my gosh, stop it. But you have a really cool name, the business casual VO. I love that. I saw that. And I've never heard that before. Of course, there's a lot of voice actors who use different, slogans with theirs. What made you think of the business casual voiceover? Because I really like it.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. Business casual voiceover, it came from, again, I came from I had just come from a company that had completely redone their branding.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky in that I was able to be, a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they did was they reached out to all of their constituents. They reached out to all of their real estate agents, all of the people that they work with, all their business partners, and said, who are we as a company? Who do you see us as? So I went around and asked people who, really knew me. I asked my wife, I asked my parents, I asked my friends. I said, what do I sound like to you when I speak? And some people said, oh, you sound serious. Okay, well, what else? You can sound a little bit mean sometimes. Okay, got the serious part. Calm down. Let's give me some more. And they're like, okay, well, you sound, and they kind of gave me all of these adjectives. And I said, okay, that's what they think I sound like. Great. What do I think I sound like? And then what do I want to be? Right.
Right.
So I thought about and I also thought about the key terms that are being used in the industry, and at that time in 2019, the conversational read, right?
Yeah.
That's, that it had already been kind of a thing, but it was really being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, the conversational voice actor. Nah, I don't know. What tells people, what I sound like, but also gives them, a sense of like, I understand what the industry wants.
Mm-hmm.
And, when people see it, they automatically know that it's, it means professionalism, whatever professionalism means to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, suit and tie, a little bit too formal. Right? I come from DC. There's a lot of suit and tie.
Yeah.
But if it's just shorts and a t-shirt, maybe too casual, right? And that's not what I sound like. I sound a little bit more formal, sometimes a little bit more academic.
Yeah.
So the combination of the two is, a dress style that if you've worked in the corporate world, it can mean a lot of different things. Business casual to one person can be, just nice jeans and, a polo.
Mm-hmm.
Business casual to somebody else can be, a full-on button down with the sleeves rolled up and some chinos, right? It means a lot of things to a lot of people, but the mindset is still the same. This person is not just sitting on the couch, but they're not too uptight. And I thought that's perfect. Business casual casual voiceover. Got it.
I love it, because you found your niche. I guess, we always, some people say, don't, talk about your niche, but you found it. You like doing commercial, and I'm not sure if that's all you want to do. Is that something you think you want to do, stick with commercial, or do you want to go out of that realm and maybe do video games or promo, or do you like commercial? Because I see you doing a lot of commercial work.
Yeah, that's a good question. And for the longest time, I haven't been in the industry for too long. It's been 3 years, but
Yeah.
for
But I
it
mean,
would,
it's long enough to know what you want to do by then. Usually by 3 years, because some people will put like, I do everything. And you're like, do you, or you're available to do everything? Because most people that I meet in this industry, they focus on one or two at the
Mhm.
most. You know what I mean? They'll do promo, video game, or mostly promo by itself if they do a lot of promo work. But commercial and video games is probably a little more than some can handle. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, when I see, I actually just deleted a video game audition because there's going to be a lot of screaming and
Mm-hmm.
guttural.
Exactly.
We gotta get to the chopper, and I'm like,
Right.
that's gonna kill me. I can't do that. I
Mm-hmm.
could, but it's not my bread and butter. And a lot of that comes from the fact that, my background is
Mm-hmm.
in the corporate world, and I'm still building up that acting strength, like
Absolutely.
acting with a capital A,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I have done one video game, but it was more of an announcer
Mm-hmm.
kind of role where it's like the guy in the background who's telling people what's going on. And so if that's where the market is pulling me, that's where I'm going to go. Half of the stuff that I do is commercial, then like maybe 20% is e-learning,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe another 10% is explainer, and I'm bad at math, so I forget the rest, but it's basically
It's all right. But no, you said it perfectly because I mean, exactly what you said. At the end of the day, if you're doing narration e-learning, you definitely don't want to do video games because you're going to sit there and scream for, maybe an hour. And then you got to read a 2,500 word script the next day. You're going to sound ridiculous. Right. And you're going to be like telling that director, look, sorry, it's not going to work out because I was this screaming zombie yesterday. Now today I got to
yeah.
be a corporate narration reader. That's not going to work out too good. So good for you choosing what you want to do. Now, for you, I always ask those in commercial, is your dream goal to be like the voice of like a couple brands, kind of like, Will Arnett, yeah, he's an actor, but he's a voice of trucks and, the Reese's and all that stuff. Is your goal long-term to be a voice of a couple brands?
So, it used to be. I thought, if I could be like the voice of Apple, or, strangely enough, be the person who says doors closing,
Oh
on the
yeah.
DC Metro,
Yeah.
then I'd be
Airports
like,
and stuff like that.
yeah, like that would just
Yeah.
be that'd be great. But I these days I feel like it changes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I recently got into studying movie trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so cool. It's such a cool thing to do. And
Mm-hmm.
there's such a small amount of people who do it. They're very talented.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about what I would need to do to be that person. A lot of work, a lot of training, but also time, which is something that unfortunately I don't have because I have uh, a day job. I don't call
Right.
it my full-time job is
Sure.
this, and then my part-time job is VO, because
Sure.
with the hours that I put in for both, it's two jobs.
Right.
Um, and so I thought, what if instead, I focus on movie trailers, but like video game
Mm-hmm.
trailers instead. And that way I can kind of get that acting with a capital A in there too, because video game trailers are, it's a combination of narration, of, commercial read, and then you have the cinematic ones,
Mm-hmm.
which are more, like the character. So even though I say that I do a lot of commercials, I can still play. Like
That's good.
I still come to play. I still come to have fun. I can, be a little silly. It's taken me some time, a little bit of time to, put on the bell bottoms, or, wiggle around metaphorically.
Right. Right. Well, so that's the next thing I'm going to talk about is TikTok. I mean, you and I follow each other on there, and we're all goofballs, right? We're all doing some, and I got to stop laughing at myself. It was kind of funny. I show my wife, oh my gosh, look at this, and she'll be like, why are you laughing at that at yourself? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I realize I laugh at myself sometimes, and I'm sure you probably do too. We do some crazy stuff on there. You know what I mean? And
That's right.
there are people that have 400 followers. There's people that have 7 million, and there's people who are getting like jobs, like big time acting jobs off TikTok.
Mhm.
How much time do you think you spend on that platform? Or do you think it's very important for you, because we see a lot more voice actors on there? How much time do you think you spend on social media in this industry?
You know when you get that report on your phone, if you have an iPhone, and it's like, how long have you spent on this? And you're like, oh, I've been so bad.
Yeah.
Recently, TikTok, it's been like the top one, and it says something like, I don't know, it's like 2 hours. I don't know I don't know if that's if it shows you like a week or a day, but I feel like it's a lot. But I, at the beginning of the year, decided, all right, I'm really gonna get into TikTok. And I had been into TikTok last year. And by the way, this was after saying, I'm never gonna do TikTok. This is stupid. You know, why do I'm not gonna shake my butt and do all this other stuff. I have nothing to say, but now 200 plus videos later, whoa, so this year I said I'm gonna do one video a day because apparently the algorithm likes that. And I did that for like 3 months, and I'm like, that's too much. That's way too much for me. So what I started doing like 2 weeks ago is I said, okay, I can do a video, like a hard niche video, and it took me over 200 videos to figure out what that was. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm gonna try to do that, and it's video game trailer stuff, like retro video game trailer stuff. And the amount of time it takes to make one of those videos, I don't know, it varies. Sometimes it takes an hour, sometimes it takes 2. There was one video that I had that took 8 hours. And it got like, it didn't like blow up or anything like that, but I'm still proud of it. But like at the end of the day, my goal is to explore myself, to get used to my own, silliness, and
find your boundaries.
And kind of test my boundaries and stuff like that. And then maybe, hopefully, if a casting director or if, an agent or something like that is like, okay, we've seen all of his other stuff. What about his social media stuff? What does he have on there? Oh, that's interesting. He's more than just a voice actor. He's got some other, silly things. Okay, then, hopefully that will, put a little, notch on my side. So that's what I'm hoping to do with that.
I mean, and that's great. And so for social media and marketing, how much time do you spend on marketing compared to social media? Do you find yourself, like I find myself sometimes, I'm like, oh my gosh, I spent way too much time on social media this week. I probably spent 10% of my time on direct marketing, because there's some weeks, I'm not going to lie, I get burnt out. I'm like, I feel like I'm not getting any results. I got to get with my coach. I got to figure out, what am I doing wrong? Not getting any callbacks on my direct marketing, but I'm getting more callbacks on my social media, like LinkedIn, and I'm making more connections on LinkedIn, a couple on TikTok. What do you ever find yourself like that? Like, sometimes you just get so burnt out of the direct marketing, you just stick with the social media, or how much time on each do you spend, you think?
That happened this year.
Okay.
That happened this year because year one, which was 2020 for me, and year two, 2021, I was grinding hard on direct marketing. Like I would send out like maybe, I guess it's not too much, but it was at least like 20 emails a week. I know people do a lot more. And what I would do is I would go either on Source Connect, or I would go like the directory, or I would go on I'm forgetting the name of it. It's like City Hub or something like that, where like you could look up marketing companies, and I would just, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna pick Atlanta today.
My gosh, the top 200 markets. Yes, I've done that. Yes, absolutely.
There you go. Like I'm in Atlanta today. Boom, 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 boom. And I've had like a one window that has tabs open up, to the wazoo. And then I would just go through that for the week. And then, next week I'm like, I'm in Austin today. Bam. And just like keep on doing that. And I've landed on some roster spots because of that.
Right.
I'll be real with you though. I've tracked my work from this year and last year, and I haven't really had that much luck with people who have reached back out to me through that kind of marketing. But what I have had is I have had opportunities with being in groups and hearing about stuff through other voice actors and stuff like that. So because of that, this year, like I stopped. I haven't done that sort of traditional direct marketing since maybe March. A lot of that, though, has to do with the fact that I was very fortunate. You had mentioned Pandora, Sirius XM. I was very fortunate to get a contract with them.
That's awesome.
Very early on, like in 2020, and things really started picking up.
Residual work.
Yeah, like March of last year, and like if I didn't have that, like I don't want people to think that, you know, oh, he stopped it, I don't have to do direct marketing. I'm stopping it because I'm getting a lot of work in from that contract work. So maybe if I didn't have that, you know, I would be grinding harder on the email game. But yeah, I stopped.
I think you're doing it right. I'll give you an A on that, because I think at the end of the day, you're focused on balancing your marketing to your work coming in. I think that's a good, because sometimes I'll sit down every quarter and say, all right, this quarter I got this amount of work from pay to play, this amount of work from myself, and this amount of work from rosters, because you have to know where you're at to know where you're going. And I think you just explained to all of us the way you should do it. And I think, you know, shout out to you on that, because like you said, there are some platforms that people do work that's in perpetuity. They do it once and their voice is being used forever, and they're fine with that.
I delete that.
That's
no matter what.
And I see you're so awesome. You got to know what you're voicing. You got to know. I just talked to somebody today that I'm coaching. You got to know what they got excited about it, but you got to know what you're voicing, because at the end of the day, you could do a project and your voice can get used many times and you're not getting paid, but you know where it's going to. So kudos to you on that. And now it's time to have some fun. We're going to have some fun with the audition challenge. I sent you a fun script in the chat here, and being that you're in commercial, go ahead and take this script and make it your own.
It's summer, and you know what that means. Time to beat the heat. And what better way than with one of our famous cold beverages at Ken's convenience store. At Ken's, we have all your favorite summer treats, like the dried up 12-hour hot dog, the 2-day-old spinning yellow juice, and you don't want to miss out on the questionable "what meat is that" nachos. Ken's convenience store. Trust us, I think.
See, that was awesome. You took it, and I'm so glad you guys can just take my copy and go with it, because that's the whole fun part about this. You know what I mean? And before I let you go, I got to ask the cliche question. You've been in this industry, you said now, 3 years.
Yep.
What advice would you get to those coming into this industry? Like now, like what would you tell them? Here's what you need to do first. Don't just say, I'm going to be a voice actor. You're going to be, a millionaire. You're going to make it huge. What advice coming from Andrew would you give them?
I would say, can I do two?
Yeah.
I would say, number one, know that it's a business. That is, if you are getting into it for a career. If you're dipping your toe in, to play in the space, that's great. That's perfectly fine. No shame in that game. But if you are looking at it from how I looked at it when I first got in, and you want to make a career out of it, approach it like a business. What does that mean? I was able to do that because I had made a business a few years prior and failed at it, but learned my lesson, and that taxes are important, and you need to make sure that you put that money away, and to have a bank account, and to make that 5-year plan. And if you don't have a spreadsheet, you better get one, because you need to put down your goals, and you need to put down your expenses, and you need to put down how you're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to take a class, like a business class or something like that, and you need to make strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, I forget what the T is, but threats.
I love it.
Then do that. And there are a lot of places where you can figure that out. Chambers of commerce, and they have templates and stuff that you can use. Or if you know someone who started a business, no matter what kind of business it is, ask them what they did, what they should have done, in the past that they wish they would have known. So business first. And the other thing I'll say is, get used to how your voice sounds, because a lot of people don't like the sound of their own voice. And if you do like the sound of your own voice, maybe it's not the voice that you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's very nebulous. But for example, it took me 3 years to figure out that I wasn't talking in my own register. I was talking in my head, like up here. Like I thought that commercials had to sound like this. It's
Mm-hmm.
summer, and you know what that means.
Right.
Because I thought that that was bright, that was happy, that was, what a commercial was. But what I realized, and I would listen to a lot of voice actors, and the people that had been in it for a long time, they, especially the people with the deeper voices, and for me, that's what I was looking at because I have a deeper voice. And I was like, they're speaking with their normal talking voice, but they're adding inflection, and their delivery is, such where, they're acting, but they're not going up here and being, unnatural. They're staying in their comfort level, and you can still go up and down and left and right with that. But a lot of people don't have that comfort because they've been conditioned to speak a certain way. Maybe you're
Yeah.
embarrassed. Maybe someone
Yeah.
told you, like, for example, when I was a kid and my voice dropped and I was like 13, people would be like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." So what are you doing? Well, that's what you sound like. Blah, 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 blah. And so I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to sound like this the whole time.
Yeah.
Or I've heard a lot of women, they, a lot of people associate vocal fry with women, or inflecting up with women, and there's a lot of misogyny in there, and there's a lot of trying to adapt to norms that are put in place by men.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a lot of these societal things and mental gymnastics that we have to do to adapt to a situation that we can't control. But once
Yeah.
you figure that out, and you're like, you know what, that's not me, and you unlock that, that what you sound like when you wake up in the morning and you're like, all right, I got to brush my teeth and I got to get up. That's what you sound like. That's you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not when you're at work and you're trying
Mhm.
to impress your boss, or,
Right.
Somebody is annoying you. It's what you sound like normally, and getting used to that.
Absolutely.
That has helped me. It's helped me book, and it makes it so that I can get into the booth and be like, I'm going to say it, and that's how I say it. And that's it.
I love it. That's like the guy next door, the typical guy next door. And I've been told that before many times. I've had people have actually talked on the show, and they said, you know what? I've heard some of your work, and you do your best work when you talk like you do when you're interviewing somebody, the regular voice, when I get up. And I took that advice. And one day I spent one day in the booth reading old copy that I wrote. Did it sound, repetitive? Absolutely. But I did it to every script, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need a new demo, because you record something, leave the booth, to come back in 3 minutes and listen to that audition, and you're probably not going to like it. So great feedback. And like the good CW, your voice goes up and down and around.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, I heard that one time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and you said it, but I heard the infamous name. So, but Andrew Lander, thank you so much for being on Behind the Audition podcast. You rock, and we got to do more because time runs out so quick, and you have so much informative information, and you're pleasant to speak with, and it's great following you on social media, contacting you. Thanks for being on the show, and let's do this again.
Curt, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. For more information about Andrew, or to book him for a project, go to andrewlandervo.com.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.